West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
This mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
I'm a Piston fan.
Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor's allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. Happy Monday. March 23, 2015. My name is Peter Rockman. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. I got some complaints. Already. Look, Alicia knows. It's hot in here. What happened?
It is really hot. It's never hot
in D.C. There's this dumb thing in D.C. with D.C. office buildings. You know, these office buildings that they're all on the same stupid temperature control, right? Oh, temperature goes below X degrees, boom. They make it like it's like an oven in here. I came in. I was excited.
Really hot.
I had my jean jacket on. I had my whole outfit all put together. And now look at this. Here I am. I have to do it in a T-shirt like a schlub. Ugh.
You did look really nice this morning, by the way.
I felt good. Thought went into my outfit for the morning. And now here I am. We're in a T-shirt.
Do you need some more ice chips?
I'm chewing on ice chips. It's helping lower my core temperature. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. Look, here's the deal. I'm not going to complain all day, but this dumb building. Ugh. I swear.
We're working on it for you.
All right, look, so here's the deal. Bill is out this week. He's on vacation, a well-deserved vacation. Cyprian Bolding still gone, by the way. So we have Monty Kanzler back in running the video operations. If you want to see Monty's good work, you can watch us on youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKR-TV. Or you could watch us on the Free Speech TV on Dish Network or DirecTV. The fine folks there at Free Speech TV. Happy to be there. Also, if you want to listen to the show, you can listen to us on your favorite progressive talk radio station or on the TuneIn app using the Progressive Voices channel or on iHeartRadio, the iHeartRadio app. So, look, what else do you want from us? We got everything you need. If you call us at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, you will talk to Alicia Cruz, who is back in the big chair. I was a lonely boy on Friday. Bill's gone, Sip's gone, Alicia's gone.
Come on, I was here for you.
Yeah, look, no offense to you. I meant no offense to you. But, three members of the team are out.
I know.
Anyway, I feel better now that the team is starting to come back together. Cyprian's going to be back soon, I think. And, of course, running the board, how could I forget? Lisa Murphy.
Hey, good morning.
I'm still with the Lisa.
I know, it's confusing. The A team over here.
I know, right? Lisa Murphy running the board, keeping us on the air. Everybody had a good weekend, I trust?
Yeah, nice weather, finally.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything interesting?
Just a little bike ride down the Mount Vernon Trail was kind of fun. Mm-hmm. That was about it, really.
It's a good bike ride. I've done that bike ride.
Yeah, really beautiful weekend.
What
about you?
I had a good weekend. You want to hear about it?
Yeah, of course.
Right, I'll tell you about it.
You're going to tell me anyways.
Too bad. I'll tell you about it anyway. We went to a maple syrup festival.
Oh, no.
Did you know that Maryland actually produces maple syrup? There are maple trees up in the Catoctin Mountains near Camp David. You got to go up there. You got to go hike around a little bit. And they've got them. They got them there. They're collecting the sap, and then they show you how you boil it all down to make syrup.
But you know who makes the most maple syrup?
Oh, here we go.
The Quebecois.
Yeah. You got to get to your Canada thing again? Yes, we get it. You're Canadian.
You're welcome.
So I got a big old jug of Maryland's own maple syrup. Then yesterday, holy cow, I'm going to talk about this thing because I go to it every year. It's this thing called Koshan 555.
Oh, was that this weekend?
Yeah, that was yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Which is why it looks like I'm about to give birth to quintuplets. Yo,
That's
so much food.
Quite the gastronomic weekend
So
you've
much
had,
food.
Peter.
A lot of maple syrup. So much pig yesterday. We started out, Mrs. Ogburn and I began our day with the birthday brunch for a friend. We got a sitter the whole day.
Wow.
Sitter came at noon. And then we didn't get back until like 10. We haven't done that in forever.
That's awesome.
A little day drinking. We went to a friend's birthday brunch thing, and then we went straight to that big Koshan. It's the best event, right? So here's the deal. They get 5 local chefs, and they have to give them a heritage pig. Each have to get like a heritage pig, and they have to make 5 dishes. And then they have 5 different wineries. They got breweries. They got people mixing cocktails. It's so much. It's so much food. It's a cool, really, really cool event. And it travels around from city to city. So check out their website, koshan555.com, because they'll come to a city near you, and it's worth going to.
What makes it a heritage pig?
All right, so it's not one of these factory farmed pigs. You know, like they've got these pigs that are bred to be leaner and so they can raise more of them and more cost effective. Heritage pigs are ones that these are the pigs that were around back in the 40s, 50s, 60s. Fatter pigs. They're harder to raise. They're more expensive to raise because you can't do it on like a factory farm. But the good news is they are delicious, and they haven't had all of the fat bred out of them, and there's a lot of care and attention, and you can sort of control the product as you're making these pigs. So it's a really, really cool thing, and that's the reason that they have this event, is to bring more awareness to things like heritage pigs, family farms, and all that stuff. So it's a great event. Again, like if you're anywhere near where they're going to be coming through to your town, you should go check it out because it's really, really fun.
So there is a big noticeable taste difference, you can tell?
Oh, yeah. Fat is flavor when you're cooking with food. Fat is what makes food taste good, or is what gives it its flavor. And you got these heritage pigs that are fatter. They taste better. That being said, I feel like garbage today because they also have so much alcohol, and it's a bomb. It's a total bomb. Anyway. But I woke up this morning, and I sent Elisa the audio very, very early because, like, at midnight last night, ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a race in 2016. This whole thing is going to be shooken up because we've got the latest contender, the latest entrant into the 2016 race, the game changer, Ted Cruz.
It's a time for truth. A time to rise to the challenge, just as Americans have always done. I believe in America and her people, and I believe we can stand up and restore our promise. It's going to take a new generation of courageous conservatives to help make America great again. And I'm ready to stand with you to lead the fight.
All right, look.
That mood music there, Peter.
This is horrible. It's a terrible ad. There are a couple of things going on here, right? First of all, number one, this all just kind of came together in about 24 hours, right? Like, you usually get some sense of what's coming. Ted Cruz gave no real indication of like, what was happening until we were right up on it. But, what a terrible ad. Ugh. Just cliche after cliche after cliche. I'm sorry. I just only listen to him talk. He's got that voice. He's just got that. It just kind of drives me nuts. Look, this isn't just a Republican versus progressive thing, right? We'll find plenty to disagree with Ted Cruz, but it's just as a person, he's not likable. You know, they talk about likability being such a big thing. He's just not a likable guy.
And of course, he had so much multi-diversity in the film footage where you think, is that going to be stock footage?
Yeah, of course.
As Republicans like to do.
His website, by the way, tedcruz.org, it's a bad website. It's not a good website. It looks like it was really slapped together. Whatever. We're going to talk more about Ted Cruz later on. He'll make it interesting, but I really, honestly, I'm not just saying this, I don't get the appeal of Ted Cruz. I don't get the national appeal. I get why Texans like him, and I get why some Tea Partiers like him. But on a national level, you're going to have more than that. Anyway, 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. That's not where I want to start today. No. Everybody else. I was looking up what we were talking about there. Everybody else is talking about Ted Cruz. All of them started. MSNBC, Fox, CNN. They all started with Ted Cruz. I'm not going to go anymore on Ted Cruz. I've said all I want to say about Ted Cruz for now. But what I do want to talk about is very, very interesting take from President Obama. This started brewing last week. He was on the road. The president's been giving all kinds of interviews here in the last couple of weeks. And he's been kind of throwing some haymakers on a couple of big different issues. He talked about weed. Because he was saying, I don't think this should be the biggest issue for young people. He talked about Netanyahu in an interview with Sam Stein. But one thing he really said last week that shook some things up is he talked about voting. Voting. And the situation we have with voting in this country. The president talked about how he wanted to make it easier to vote. Here's what the president said in Ohio last week.
We shouldn't be making it harder to vote. We should be making it easier to vote. And
which I agree with wholeheartedly. You see other people making it easier to vote in different nations all over the world, different cities. Right? They're talking about online voting in some cities. But the president didn't just end there. He went on.
In Australia and some other countries, there's mandatory voting. It would be transformative if everybody voted. That would counteract money more than anything. If everybody voted, then it would completely change the political map in this country.
If everybody voted. If everybody voted. Now, he didn't say that he thinks that we should have mandatory voting, but it was going in that direction. Here's one other clip from the president where he talks about who doesn't vote.
Because the people who tend not to vote are young, they're lower income.
Democrat.
They're skewed more heavily towards immigrant groups and minority groups.
Democrats.
And, they're often the folks who they're scratching and climbing to get into the middle class, and they're working hard. And there's a reason why some folks try to keep them away from the polls. We should want to get them into the polls.
So the president making it very. You look at the situation in Israel with the election that they just had. There's a 70% voting. 70% of citizens showed up and voted in that last election that elected Benjamin Netanyahu. You imagine if 70% of America showed up and voted? You talk about a Democratic majority for life. But what about the idea of mandatory voting? What about making it mandatory to go vote? 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. And even the president mentioned Australia. In Australia, if you don't vote, you get fined. You have to go vote. You must go vote. And if you don't, you'll catch a fine for it. So should we have mandatory voting? Yes or no? I know you're waiting to hear what I have to say about this. No, of course we shouldn't have mandatory voting. What are you, crazy? This is America. We can do what we want. That's kind of the point. That's why we have wars. That's why we have these fights. So that we can make the decisions as individuals whether or not we want to do that. Yes, I know that if we had mandatory voting, more Democrats would show up to the polls and more Democrats would be elected. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, right? You look at any recent election, it shows that the more people that vote, the better off it is for Democrats. 866-55-PRESS. The idea of mandatory voting, has been kicked around for a while. Steny Hoyer once said, quote, "I think it's an interesting idea. Whether it's mandatory requirement or not, I think that's for more discussion." So let's have the discussion. Mandatory voting, yes or no, 866-55-PRESS. Other voting rights advocates have pointed out that the president had promised to fix a broken voting system, and no real changes have been made to voting in the last several years, right? Despite the fact that we have the technology for online voting. Mail-in ballots are still a problem for some people. So mandatory voting, yes or no? I say no. You can't make it mandatory. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. We will take your calls. We will take calls that disagree with us at 866-55-PRESS. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
should I get back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
That's right. It is The Bill Press Show. Tweeting at BP Show. Of course, I'm not Bill Press. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill today. We've got a great week of shows. Bill is on vacation, so we've brought in the best and the brightest all week long. So we got a lot of good, fun stuff planned for you. But right now, you have me, and we are talking about mandatory voting, an idea that the president kicked around last week. Should we have mandatory voting in this country? 866-55-PRESS. It's an easy question. Should Americans be forced to go vote? In other words, if you don't go vote, you get a fine. They'll know if you vote or not. Honey Bear Kelly on Twitter says, they do have mandatory voting in Australia, and they still ended up with a massive fool in Tony Abbott. Good point. So it's not like mandatory voting solves all the problems. The problem with mandatory voting, you bring out a lot of good people who wouldn't otherwise vote, but a lot of bad people who wouldn't otherwise vote. I say this is America. The whole point is you get to vote however you'd like. And if you vote by not going up to the polls, then that's your vote. Rose in Ligonier, Indiana, called 866-55-PRESS. Rose, happy Monday.
Hi, guys. My thing is, I'm not so sure about mandatory, but at least put an incentive out there if they don't want to do it, simply because for say in what we're doing, at least a little, maybe even a little bit on the tax deduction or something like that, small. Even have coffee, refreshments. Make it a little more cheerier to show up.
I think that's a good point, Rose. I think that there's an argument that can be made to revamping the whole voting system, right? And taking a look at how we do this these days compared to how much better it could be. We don't have the majority of Americans go out and vote on Election Day. Like, we don't even get a majority. Israel, with their election, 70%. It's pretty convincing. I do think that it's probably not a bad idea to incentivize people somehow. I also think that, hell, one of the greatest incentives you could give people is to just take part in one of the most amazing political processes on the planet. If you care enough, then you go vote. The problem is getting people to, care. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, talking about mandatory voting. Good idea or bad idea? I say it's not a good idea. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water. Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean. But because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
For Bill Press today. I didn't even talk about what all we've got coming up on the show today. My goodness. What a show we've got lined up for you. Later on in the hour, we'll have our Monday chit-chat with Scott Bland from the National Journal's Hotline. And top of next hour, we're going to talk about that UVA situation, which continues to be a real problem with Yahoo News' Dylan Stableford. And the third hour of the program is going to be Ladies' Hour, apparently. We've got a couple of ladies coming in.
Just for you, Peter.
Hey, you know, I love women. I have all their albums. Lauren French from Politico and Jessica Taylor from The Hill, both coming in studio to hang out with me to talk politics. Meanwhile, we are talking about voting. The president brought up the idea of mandatory voting. Now, look, the president's not pushing mandatory voting, as I'm sure some right-wing websites will have you believe. He's not making any kind of real push for it. The White House isn't calling for a new law. But it came up, and the president acknowledged that we've got a problem with our voting system. People aren't getting out there and voting. Why not? Can't we make it easier for people to go vote? Our voting process hasn't changed in a long, long time. And we've got better technology. We've got, whole new methods and ideas of how to get people out, and none of them have really been implemented. So the idea of mandatory voting has been kicked around. How do you feel about that idea? Good idea or bad idea? 866-55-PRESS. I don't think it's a very good idea. I think that this is America. If you don't want to vote, you shouldn't have to vote. I think that you should vote. I think if you don't vote, you're a dope. But you have that right. You have that right. 866-55-PRESS. Ron in Paisley, Florida. Ron, thanks for calling the Bill Press Show.
Hey, I think a good way to increase voting is to make the voting day a national holiday and also remove voter restrictions, like ID laws, but I'm not for mandatory.
Now, that is a fine idea, Ron. That is a solution to a problem. Bernie Sanders has brought that up before. Why not make it a national holiday? That's kind of the point that we're getting at here is voting's not easy. We all have jobs. We all got different schedules. You got to find time to break away to go vote. You got to deal with the lines, depending on where you are. But it's a tough thing to do. And when you're juggling kids, a career, a relationship, all this stuff. Yeah, it's tough to sneak off and go vote sometimes. A national holiday to go vote? I can get behind that.
And it should be celebrated in that fashion.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Get out, go vote when you have that national holiday. I bet you'd see voting go up. 866-55-PRESS. Carl in South Hadley, Massachusetts. Hey, Carl, what's happening?
I think that it should be mandatory.
What's that?
But I think that it should be mandatory, but maybe do it with taxes or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But the Republicans aren't going to go for any of that. They don't want anybody to vote anyways. They're trying to take everybody's voting rights away now.
No, I understand that, and that is worth talking about, Carl. Absolutely. But the idea of mandatory voting, don't you think that we fought wars to have this democracy so that we could choose? So why should we make people go vote?
You do have a point there. Well, maybe an incentive to vote with taxes.
I'm not opposed to an incentive to voting, but a punishment for not voting, I'm against it. I am against it. 866-55-PRESS. Boy, we got a lot of calls coming through here. Keep them coming. I want to hear from some ladies, too. I see a lot of dudes weighing in. Where are my women at? David in Detroit, Michigan. David, what's happening?
Hey, your points are valid.
Of course they are, David.
But if you threaten the mandatory voting, you might see a reversal on some of the stronger trends that the Republicans are doing on trying to disenfranchise people. Sometimes you need to go to the opposite extreme to come with a happy compromise.
I'm not so sure that I agree with you, David. I hear where you're coming from, and I understand you throw out this big deal, and with a little luck, you'll get a not so big deal, but still a good one. I hear what you're saying. I'm sorry. Have you not seen the relationship that the president has with Congress? And what the next president may have with Congress? I don't think that there's going to be any kumbaya moment here where they, see the light and find some. It's either all or nothing with this Congress. Let's see. What do we got? We got John in Trumansburg, New York. John, thanks for calling 866-55-PRESS.
Thanks, dear. We went to an all-volunteer U.S. Army, for which it's not really volunteer. People get paid. Why don't, to protect the right of us to vote, why don't we go to an all-volunteer voting system where you get paid to exercise that right?
I'm not opposed to that, John.
Give people a $100 bill, tax credits will not affect the lower and the middle economic classes. Tax credits are for the very wealthy. Give people a reward for walking into that building and exercising their rights.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the incentivizing of voting. Like, make it to where, people would want to come out and give them more of a reason to vote. Personally, and I know that this is not a very progressive stance here, right? Because I know that progressives all say, like, let everybody get out and vote, go vote, go vote, go vote. But I think that you should have the right to not vote. I'm not saying that you shouldn't vote. I think if you don't vote, you're being silly. But the idea of incentivizing, yeah, I can at least hear that argument. Carol in Cedar, Michigan. Hey, Carol.
Hi.
How are you, my dear?
I'm fine. I just wanted to say that I believe in a national holiday also, but if that's not possible, why can't we move the voting day to Saturday? Because people are working these days.
Carol has solutions to problems. I like this.
And it's very, very hard to vote when you work. You either have to, yeah.
You got your radio on in the background, Carol.
I just shut it off. I'm sorry.
That'll mess with you.
All right. Anyway, and also, to be paid for it, that's kind of stupid.
I don't love the idea of getting paid for it, but I'll listen to that argument at least. I don't agree with that particular kind of incentivizing, but who knows? There are other ways out there. At least we're going down the right path. But Carol, that's a very, very good point. Look, people, it's not easy to vote. We all know that. If you're of voting age, we've all been there trying to find that into your schedule. You got a busy day. You got the kids to deal with. You got to make dinner. You got work. All of this. It's not easy. National holiday? Make it on a Saturday? You know what I did the past couple of times is I take my kids with me because it just didn't fit into the schedule. I bring the kids with me. They come right into the voting booth with me. And they love it. And the people running the polls, they love it when the kids come in. So, yeah, I'll listen to that. I'll listen to a Saturday voting day. Tom in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Tom, thanks for calling.
Hey, Peter. A couple of things. One, it's my understanding that the thing in Australia, you don't have to actually vote. You have to show up at the polling place. They don't force you to actually circle the little circles or whatever. And there's a minimal fine, but at least you have to show up. And secondly, how is this mandatory voting any different from jury duty?
Now, that is a good point. Someone brought that up online about why not have mandatory voting. We have mandatory jury duty. Shout out to MC Nomad who brought that up. But that's a good point, Tom. I've never done jury duty. My understanding is, do you get paid to do jury duty? You get like a little stipend or something?
Yeah, on daily, I think. I've never done it either.
See, that's kind of what I'm saying. Is it's not a voluntary thing, but at least you get paid for it. 866-55-PRESS. Got time for one more call. Let's go to Sam in Rochester, New York. What's happening, Sam?
Hey, how you doing, Peter?
I'm good, man.
I like to see internet voting. You don't have to wait in line. You ain't got to be there on time. I like to see mandatory voting, too, because I like to see the racist teabag Republican Party crash and burn.
There you go.
I can just piss on their ashes.
There you go, Sam in Rochester. Online voting for this conversation. Why can't we have online voting? We've got secure servers. I think that the only thing that's holding them back from doing it is because, we do every now and then have stories of websites getting hacked or corrupted or going down. And even if you put it in the hands of the government, who has the full backing of the American people, financially anyway, you still end up with, like, healthcare.gov, which wasn't that long ago. Imagine if that was our voting site. Imagine what that would do to the political process. 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. That is our phone number. We are going to take a quick break, though. We got other stuff to talk about. Keep your calls coming, though. We'll sprinkle them in throughout the show. Promise. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed. It is the Bill Press Show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. 48 minutes past the hour. So much news over the weekend, right? Just an avalanche of news. Of course, breaking last night at a little after midnight. Senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, sent out a tweet that said, "I'm running for president, and I hope to earn your support," and tweeted out a little video, which we don't have time to play right now, but we'll play it again a little bit later. But Ted Cruz is he's in the race, man. He's out there. He is running. It is official. So we're talking to our good friend, editor-in-chief of the National Journal's Hotline, Scott Bland. You can follow him on Twitter at Hotline Scott. Scott, happy Monday, man. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So Ted Cruz is in, huh?
Yeah. It's officially begun, right?
Yeah.
No more exploring. No more. We've got a candidate in the race to cover.
Oh.
Yeah. They leaked it over the weekend. He tweeted it out at midnight, and it's really happening. He's giving a speech later today at Liberty University in Virginia to make that official announcement.
I will say, as kooky as I think Ted Cruz is, it is kind of refreshing that he didn't really flirt around with this with political action committees or exploratory committees, or he just went out there. I'm in. I mean, it came together awfully fast.
Yeah, it did, and I think part of the strategy behind that was to kind of signal this seriousness, right? And the other element behind it is that I think as a sitting senator, he has a lot less to lose financially by just going for it right away. Because he's a current federal office holder, he already couldn't do the kind of stuff that Jeb Bush is doing, which is raising millions of dollars hand over foot for his super PAC as a non-candidate before then breaking it off as a real candidate. Since Cruz is already a federal office holder, he is barred from soliciting contributions over $5,000 for a super PAC. Well, it might be a little bit more than that now, but around $5,000. Actually, this is something Aaron Schock got in trouble for way back in 2012 before the real serious stuff came out. So the in addition to kind of wanting to send this signal about being serious about the race and kind of jumping, being the first one in, Cruz also had a lot less to lose financially by doing that than some of the other candidates out there, like the governors or the former governors.
Oh, talk to me a little bit about the national appeal of a Ted Cruz, because he certainly has his fans, but a lot of them seem to be fairly isolated into little pockets. But when we're talking about a national appeal of a guy like Ted Cruz, what are we talking about?
Certainly, his national appeal is rooted in two things. No one's going to be able to be more conservative than him. Mm-hmm. And no one is going to articulate it quite as well. And between those two things, he does have some very, powerful positives on his side. Conservative voters dominate Republican primaries, and they dominate Republican caucuses especially. And so, Iowa will be an opportunity for him to get the people's right, and then to make a big case for how he's been fighting for conservatives. One of the issues that he's already signaled that he's going to focus on is same-sex marriage. He's saying that a lot of people in the Republican Party have started to ignore it or put it on the back burner, and he's been going around telling evangelicals and pastors that he's not going to. He's going to continue pushing to keep same-sex marriage from happening, and there aren't as many Republican candidates as there used to be, kind of willing to go out and make that a part of their platform.
I agree with that, but I think it's also with good reason that I don't think that a lot of people are there with them anymore.
No, and that's a good point. I mean, even I think the most recent polling is starting to show support for gay marriage creeping into the 40% area among Republicans.
Yeah.
No, so that you're absolutely right. That's obviously a risk, but the strategy is very rooted in the fact, Iowa, the first caucus state, almost 2/3 of the Republican caucus goers in 2012 are evangelical Christians. So, he certainly has an opportunity to break through there. Right now, he barely registers in the polls, but it's a little hard to see that and not be reminded of when he ran for Senate in 2011 and was told, as with a lot of these candidates, there's nothing in their past that would convince them that an underdog race isn't worth taking on.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we'll certainly keep an eye on it with you from here on out, Scott. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Scott Bland, editor-in-chief at National Journal Hotline. Please go follow him on Twitter at Hotline Scott. Good stuff from there, as always. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the earth needs a good lawyer.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple, and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Oh, shock of all shocks. Remember last week we were talking about Starbucks and their Race Together campaign, where we were going to come together hand in hand with our baristas and talk about our experiences with race and the racial diversity that we have in this country. Yeah, we were going to talk to our Starbucks baristas about that. Shock of all shocks, they have shut that program down. Didn't see that coming. They say that the idea, the effort is still going to go forward, but they're not going to make it to be where we are talking to our baristas about race, but they still want to address it in their own special way. Good luck with that, Starbucks. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. Very quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear. We had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags
Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, indeed, it is the Bill Press Show. Bill is out this week on a well-deserved vacation. A little family time. Lucky for him. Unlucky for you, you're stuck with me. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. But we have so many great things to talk about and so many great guests that are coming in that you're not even going to notice that Bill is gone or something like that. You can listen to us on your favorite progressive talk radio station anywhere in the country. Also streaming live audio on the iHeartRadio app or the TuneIn app if you use the Progressive Voices channel. It's a great resource, by the way. We get comments about that all the time. How great that is. You can also watch us live on Free Speech TV if you have DirecTV or Dish Network or a Roku box. They got a little channel there on the Roku box. You can just watch us right there. And if you were doing that, you were doing so because of the good work of Monty Kanzler, who is in today for Cyprian Bolding. Our phone number is 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. If you call that number, you will be lucky enough to talk to Alicia Cruz, who is back after having a couple days off. I should mention that Monty is in for Cyprian Bolding, who's still on the road, and is probably going to be back later this week. And running the board is Elisa Murphy. Elisa, good morning.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. What's happening?
Not much. Things are going pretty well here. It's springtime finally here in D.C. The cherry blossoms are appearing.
No, they're not.
Almost.
No, they're not.
We all have hope.
Incorrect. The Cherry Blossom Festival is underway. It's like it was cold outside today, man.
It snowed on Friday.
It was garbage weather is what this is. 34 degrees and nothing but clouds in the sky. It just looks like a big, nasty gray blanket in the sky. It's terrible. And cold? Ugh. I went out on Saturday. We went north a little bit. We went up to, past Frederick, all the way up to the Catoctin Mountains.
It's pretty up there.
Yeah, you know what, though? There a couple of inches of snow on the ground up there.
Yeah, actually Pennsylvania got like 5 inches on Friday.
It's crap is what it is. We went on a little hike. We went to, I was saying this earlier, they produce maple syrup. So we went to go look at the maple syrup. They had a big maple syrup festival. They tap the trees and they boil it down, make maple syrup. But there's like a little hike up to the falls. There's nothing but pure snow and ice and crap.
Happy spring.
Spring has sprung indeed. I got shoes filled with snow. The kids have snow all over them. It's a mess. Yeah, play that clip from Eleanor Holmes Norton, our delegate here in Washington, D.C., without any representation. We had our big Cherry Blossom Festival here over the weekend. It's officially underway.
They bloom every year, so they always remind us of that gift. And they always remind us each year of our friendship.
Too bad they're all covered in snow right now.
Well, at least they're white if they have snow still on them.
Yeah, always the optimist. All right, let's switch gears because this is a story I've been paying attention to past several days. Out of Charlottesville, Virginia, University of Virginia has a real problem on their hands. Martise Johnson is a student down there who was violently taken down by the ABC police, or the enforcement officers, however you want to put it. The photo of him with a bloodied face has gone viral. To get more on the story, we're going to digital editor for Yahoo News, Dylan Stableford, joining us on the phone. You can follow him on Twitter at Stableford and read some of their good work there at yahoo.com. Dylan, thanks so much for joining me, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So get us up to speed on the Martise Johnson story. Kind of what's the issue that led to this now kind of infamous viral photo of his bloodied face being kind of manhandled by the officers there?
Sure. Well, as far as the what you mentioned, the what is it called, the alcoholic beverage control agents, he was out in I believe it's part of Charlottesville called the Corner. Is that right?
Yeah.
The where all students go to drink, and
every college town has something like it.
Right.
The Quad or the 5 Points or the Corner or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and I according to the agents, he attempted to get into a bar, and that's where the story gets a little, depending on who you ask. I just read something over the weekend that the co-owners of this Trinity Irish pub that he was trying to get into said he was acting, cordial, I think is the word they used, whereas these agents said he was acting belligerent and he was drunk and or acting drunk, and so they attempted to intervene, and that photo is really, sort of what Twitter and the students down there, black students in particular, latched onto, because it did, whether or not you believe the agents that he was acting belligerent or if you believe him, certainly the optics, as they say in D.C., that it just doesn't look good, especially in the wake of, the other, in Ferguson and Staten Island cases like that, which we just, lived through in terms of the...
Right. Well, one of the things that I keep coming back to is like, let's take the ABC guys, the authorities, at their word, right? Which there are a lot of contradicting reports as to what actually was going on down there. But let's take them at their word. Let's say he did have a fake ID, and let's say he did get belligerent.
Right.
That can't be the first time that's happened in a college town like Charlottesville. I mean, if it is, maybe I understand it, but they've seen this before,
right? And that's what apparently. So the Virginia governor, Terry McAuliffe, demanded an investigation at the request of the school, and so the Virginia State Police, I believe, is leading this investigation, and the Charlottesville police. And that's actually something I'm not sure if I don't think they oversee the alcohol beverage control. I mean, I guess they work in concert with them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the police chief down there met with some of these students on Friday, and it was a contentious meeting where he's just trying to hear their perspective, and they didn't like what he was saying. Which essentially was what let the investigation play out. Because I guess at UVA, which I was sort of surprised to hear, but I guess I shouldn't be, is that only 6% of the student body, I believe, is African American or black. So this is a minority group within a college system that is already fraught with a lot of history, and they're feeling like they're not being treated equally, and especially to your point, they obviously in a area like this, a lot of bars, some kid, let's say he did show a fake ID, he shouldn't end up on the ground with a bloody face, regardless of where you're coming at this issue.
Right. One of the kind of disturbing things that kind of came out of some of the more recent violence that we've seen, right, was this narrative that they somehow had it coming to them.
Right.
Trayvon Martin was in the wrong neighborhood, or Eric Garner was resisting arrest, or Mike Brown robbed a convenience store and then stormed the police car that Darren Wilson was in. None of those seem to carry any water in this case, because when you look at Martise Johnson, he's an honor student, one of the top performing students at University of Virginia, was a mentor to other kids. Like this guy's flawless in that regard.
Yeah, and one of the first thing, and one of the reasons why that bloody photo went viral was there was on Twitter, there's this hashtag Justice for Martise, similar to what we've seen after, Ferguson and the Trayvon Martin cases, where these sort of mini social movements pick up. But one of the points that I kept seeing as I was, sort of digging through that thread was this, where, essentially, in those other cases, the victims have been painted as thugs, right?
Right.
And in this case, they're showing pictures of Martise with a bow tie on campus and things like that. And the overarching point was that it doesn't matter if you're black, you could be an honor student, or you could be in the wrong neighborhood.
Yeah, right.
Be completely innocent, and this is an outcome of that, and how can this keep happening? Essentially, and the other, I don't know if you can conflate. I mean, each situation has a different. In those other cases, the police thought that or the police, or in the case of Trayvon Martin, the Neighborhood Watch thought that. But in this case, I'm not sure, being belligerent, you can argue being threatened to the point where you have to take somebody down in this manner, as is being alleged in this case.
Right. All right, good stuff, Dylan. I really appreciate it, man. Dylan Stableford, digital editor for Yahoo News. We'll keep following the story with you, man. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks a lot.
Go follow him on Twitter at Stableford, and read their good work at Yahoo.com. Another little interesting nugget out of this whole college experience is today, University of Virginia, while we're talking Charlottesville, they are going to release the findings of that rape story, that now infamous rape story from Rolling Stone magazine. I'm just pulling up this article here because there was the New York Times did a Q&A with Will Ferrell, the comedian, the actor, and he was asked about the fraternity system here in America. Because, I mean, he's made gazillions of dollars off of portraying this guy in Old School, right, which is all about this whole fraternity system. So he talks about, I'm just going to read his opening line here. He says, the incident in Oklahoma, that is a real argument for getting rid of the system altogether, in my opinion, even having been through a fraternity. Because when you break it down, it really is about creating cliques and clubs and being exclusionary. You look at all these stories that have come out of fraternities in the recent weeks and months. The Oklahoma just screaming racial comments about how they won't let black people into their fraternity. You look at this Penn State story that we talked about, where they were posting pictures of naked women against their knowledge. They didn't know about it. You look at case after case after case of rape allegations. Why would we even keep a fraternity system around? Talk about an outdated institution.
Because they really only seem to be social elements. I mean, I don't know what else you get out of being part of a fraternity.
Sure. Get rid of fraternities. Why are we going to keep those around? They've always been dumb. But, I mean, now more than ever, How outdated are fraternities? 866-55-PRESS. Why not get rid of them? Hell, I don't care. 866-557-7377. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We'll take a quick break. Your calls and much, much more right after this.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Shout out to Alicia Cruz, by the way. Not only does she screen calls, she also saves lives. She saved mine this morning. I had just a little bit of evening last night, I think it's safe to say. A phenomenal event called Koshan 555, where they have 5 chefs prepare 5 different breeds of heritage pigs. And then they have 5 different winemakers, and they make 5 dishes each. And it's just a really cool event. It travels around the country. You really should go find them, koshan555.com, because they go all over the place, right? It's like, and then they have local chefs do this thing, and you walk in. Literally, you walk in, and they hand you a bourbon punch situation. Just right off the bat. So whiskey was liberally flowing last night, and a lot of pork was eaten. So Alicia was very kind to go get me some Gatorade.
Yes, that has made it onto the camera already this morning.
Yeah.
Brought to you by...
Look, it may have saved my life because I came in not great shape. And then the air conditioning in this studio was not working properly, and so it was hot as blue blazes in here when I walked in. What a horrible combination. If you know what I'm talking about, then you've been there.
You might be able to put your jacket back on by the end of the show.
Oh, I hope so. Because I liked my outfit when I left the house this morning, and it was too hot in here for me to wear my jean jacket.
A la 1980.
How dare you? How dare you call my fashion sense into question? That actually hurt. It's not a 1980s jean jacket.
I'm just kidding, Peter. It's okay.
Now I'm really worried. Look, we have so much stuff to talk about today. Good grief. I mentioned the Starbucks thing. We talked about it last week. They're not going to do this race together anymore. Shock. Turns out that wasn't such a great idea, huh?
Just when all the baristas were reading up on their race relations.
I was ready to walk into a Starbucks, find a barista who's not my color, and be like, brother, what can I do to help you? Brother, let's talk about your experience as a minority. Never in a million years am I comfortable doing that. I will say this about Starbucks. I have learned a lot from all of the conversations that I've had with my African American friends in the past couple months and year or so that we've had these really bad race stories here in America. I have learned a lot. But you know why? Because I'm having these conversations with my friends and they're not forced. So, on one hand, I understand where Starbs is coming from, but come on, guys. You can't force this stuff. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. 866-557-7377. You will need that number because up next, we are talking about the latest entrant into the 2016 race.
This is the Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are 3 incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop, you have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans. Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now. Ban fracking now. Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now. Please.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. 33 minutes past the hour. We've got a lot to talk about here on today's show. A couple things I got to jump into. Don't forget, we are streaming live video at youtube.com/TalkerTV, TAWKR TV. That's how you spell talker now, in case you didn't know that. Not only can you stream live video throughout the show when it's live, but you can watch it all day long. Once the show is over, it lives right there. YouTube.com/TalkerTV. You can watch the whole thing anytime you want, whenever you want. Not only that, we have a chat room there that you can join in. Which, by the way, shout out to everybody who is either dealing on my jean jacket or giving me tips on how to beat a hangover. Joyce Davis says, Pete, if you have a hangover, you should drink V8, not Gatorade. I'm sticking with the Gatorade because that is one of my hangover remedies. Do you have a hangover remedy?
I actually like to mix my drinks with Gatorade.
Ooh.
So that helps with the whole process. You never really get that bad.
That gets you drunk faster, though, because it hydrates you and it gets into your sizz.
Yes, but your head feels oh so better.
Oh, my God. And besides, I don't drink V8 unless it goes to a Bloody Mary, which kind of defeats the whole point. Alan Alan Collins weighs in because, of course, he does. He says I should just go roast one. I should go get high.
He means the pig, of course.
Oh, clearly.
Hey, one of our avid listeners and watchers on the talk show, Scott Dean. It's his birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, Scott Dean.
Out in Sheffield, Iowa.
Shout out to Scott.
54 years young.
Oh, I see Scott here says I still have a jean jacket and I wear it often.
Oh.
Yeah. Y'all are going to see the jean jacket before the day is over.
I'll have to bring out my Guess one when I had back in 1986.
Scott says, cut off the sleeves and wear it as a vest. Jesus, Scott, I'm not Patrick Swayze. I'm not going to do that.
Might be a good look, Peter. You might want to try that.
That'd be a terrible look.
You can still wear it in the hot studio.
I had to lose my jean jacket. I'm wearing a black T-shirt like some sort of a schlub. Anyway. YouTube.com/TalkerTV. That's where it's at. It's going down over there. All right, so 2016. Here we go. We got our first official entrant into the race. Ted Cruz last night at midnight, a little bit after midnight, tweeted out a quick campaign video. Here's what it sounds like.
It's a time for truth. A time to rise to the challenge, just as Americans have always done. I believe in America and her people, and I believe we can stand up and restore our promise. It's going to take a new generation of courageous conservatives to help make America great again. And I'm ready to stand with you to lead the fight.
Oh, boy, is that just a bad ad or what?
A new generation of courageous conservatives.
Boring ad with crap music and just cliches much. Who wrote that thing? By the way, the greatest irony of ironies. You want to run for president. What's the first thing you want to do when you're running for president? You want to go and lock down your domain name, right? TedCruz.com? TedCruz.com? Go to TedCruz.com. Go to TedCruz.com. Just a giant sign that says, support President Obama, immigration reform now. Nice going, dummy. You've got the vision to lead the country, and yet you can't even get your own domain name. Isn't that just beautifully stupid? So you got to go to tedcruz.org to learn about the Ted Cruz campaign because, he didn't have that vision to go buy tedcruz.com before somebody else did. I got a lot of things to say about a Ted Cruz candidacy. I got a lot of things to say about the way that Ted Cruz is going to run his campaign. So let's just jump right into it. I'm not scared of Ted Cruz as someone who tends to vote progressive. I would be more scared of someone like a Chris Christie or a Jeb Bush. I think Chris Christie is just kind of a non-factor now. I think he just sort of exploded or imploded, as it were. So I don't really see that as a big factor. But I'm not worried by Ted Cruz. We were talking to Scott Bland earlier. So this is this argument that a couple of Republicans have had for a couple of years now is, we keep losing elections because we're not running someone who is conservative enough. Mitt Romney wasn't conservative enough. John McCain wasn't conservative enough. There was a time, believe it or not, that John McCain was considered to be a fairly independent Republican. So Republicans are saying, we're not winning because we're not putting these really hardcore conservatives on the ticket. Guys who, even now in 2015, would strike down marriage equality. Guys who are still living in the 60s and 70s and haven't really progressed. Guys like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has been stunting for a long, long time. We played the ad. You remember he had this whole big filibuster where he had not much to say and ended up just kind of doing this green eggs and ham bit. Go ahead, let me hear that clip of Ted
They
Cruz.
did not like Obamacare in a box with a fox, in a house, or with a mouse. It is not working.
Ted Cruz is going to run for president on the platform of repealing Obamacare 100%. By the way, happy anniversary. Today is the 5th birthday of Obamacare.
Oh, it is today.
It is today. Ted Cruz goes on about his whole hatred of Obamacare and what he would do.
The most important regulatory reform we can do is we need to repeal every word of Obamacare.
Ugh, man. I got an issue with the way the guy talks. He bugs me. Aside from ideas, I just don't like his style. Don't worry, though. You might not like him, but he's got a couple of friends who have a lot of money.
I admire Charles and David Koch. They are businessmen who have created hundreds of thousands of jobs.
That may be a paid endorsement.
Yeah. Oh, no, he'll get some of that Koch money. And, of course, here we are in 2015. I mentioned TedCruz.com, where it says immigration reform now. We know how Ted Cruz feels about it.
All of us have reason to be proud that our governor, Greg Abbott, and our Attorney General, Ken Paxton, led the way, standing up and fighting against lawlessness.
866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Would love to hear what you think about Ted Cruz and the Ted Cruz candidacy. Now, I understand Ted Cruz's appeal to certain people. I really do. I can see why Texans might like him, certain Texans. I can see why Tea Partiers would like him. But when you put him on a national stage, it really is quite silly, some of the stuff that he has to say. He's made a couple of huge gaffes. First of all, with the net neutrality stuff, his tweet on net neutrality clearly showed that he doesn't understand this issue. When we were talking, not that long ago, he was talking about Common Core and talked about how we should repeal Common Core. Yeah, Common Core is not federal legislation. There's no repealing Common Core. It's not something that can be done. He likes that word repeal so much that I don't think he understands what it means. Are you scared of a Ted Cruz candidacy? Are you scared of Ted Cruz running for president? I'm not. Talk about not ready for prime time. I don't see it happening. In fact, yesterday I Meet the Press, California Governor Jerry Brown said that Ted Cruz is, quote, absolutely unfit, end quote, to run for president. I think that's hit the nail on the head. What's he going to run on? Oh, that he could shut down the government more effectively than anybody else? You remember that whole government shutdown that everybody hated and Republicans got blamed for? You know that was Ted Cruz's doing, right? What a winning message for all of America. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number, 866-557-7377. Are you worried about a Ted Cruz candidacy? Again, I repeat, I am not. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case. Turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show, 47 minutes past the hour. I see you, Psy Guy, tweeting. I was talking about Ted Cruz still living in the 60s and the 70s. He says, guys still living in the 60s and the 70s, guys still wearing jean jackets.
Oh.
That's a little hurtful.
Good one, Psy Guy.
It's a little hurtful, is what that is. My name is Peter Ogburn. I'm sitting in for Bill Press today. Well, so much good stuff today to talk about. Holy cow. And right now we're talking about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz. He officially announced he is running for president last night. Actually, I should say this morning. It came out a little bit after midnight on Twitter. So we've been talking about that, taking your calls at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. And my point is, I'm really not that worried about this. Ted Cruz doesn't worry me as someone who typically votes progressive. What about you? 866-55-PRESS. I'll tell you one thing. The debates will be worth watching because Ted Cruz does not care at all whose reputation he damages. He will absolutely throw any Republican under the bus. And he doesn't even have to get it factually correct. Ted Cruz often gets things wrong.
Remember he scared that little girl just last week about the world being on fire.
He's just a silly guy. I'm not that worried about what kind of impact he's going to have on the race, but let us know, 866-55-PRESS. Shall we go to Sam in Rochester? Sam, thanks for calling, 866-55-PRESS.
Yeah, I'm glad we got a new car. It's called the coward car. All these guys that pound drums of war.
Yeah, right?
None served. And they all trash John Kerry. Well, he was there for a month, okay, but he was on the river getting bullets shot at him. When have these guys ever been on a river getting bullets shot at him?
Yeah, all right, Sam, I appreciate the call. Let's go to Joey in Chicago. Joey called 866-55-PRESS. Thanks, Joey.
There would be no way you should be afraid of any of these Republicans, especially Cruz. His number one goal is to repeal Obamacare. Let me tell you what Obamacare is, everybody. It's not insurance. It's not government insurance. It's a law. It's a law that forces insurance companies to honor the policies that they sold you. You were paying your policies, you go to use it, and you get screwed. So if that's the only thing he's going to run on, if people really understand what Obamacare is, he don't have a shot. But people don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joey. I appreciate the call, 866-55-PRESS. That is going to be the one probably highest profile issue that he's going to be running on, is repealing Obamacare. And I think it's just an idea that's so far removed from people's heads at this point. It's been 5 years. A lot of people have been helped out by it, by the way. And I don't think that, aside from a handful of Republicans that still have these show votes about repealing Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, I just think that it's just an issue that people have grown to accept and like in a lot of cases. Let's go to Robert in Chicago, Illinois. Robert, thank you for calling 866-55-PRESS, talking about Ted Cruz.
Hey, good morning, Peter.
Hey, bud.
Myself, I'm a 27-year-old union carpenter out of Chicago.
My man.
And he has no appeal whatsoever to me as far as myself. But I tell you what, there's a lot of dumb people within the ranks of the halls that vote for people like this. Look at Rauner. Rauner's the governor now. Why? Because either people voted for him or they just didn't show up to the polls. So I figure if he gets past the primary, we should be worried and we should be armed and ready just to battle these dumb Republicans that are within the filing rank of the Republican Party, and we have to be able to be ready for it, especially all our halls and all the locals.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really good point, Robert. And I love getting your perspective as someone who is a younger voter, because these issues that he's running on are so antiquated and so old and so meant to, scare older voters or for whatever reason. The guys like Robert, who's 27, it's so far off their radar. And just to hit on your point of what happens if he makes it out of the primary and into the general, we will treat him as any other candidate. You know what I mean? It's not like we're going to ease up because we're not worried about it. I would be stunned if he makes it out of the primary. Steve in Hudson, Wisconsin. Steve, thank you so much for calling the Bill Press Show. What's your take?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm listening, a good show this morning, but I just don't see how Ted Cruz is even a viable candidate.
No.
How that could even be possible. He's a lunatic.
It's a long shot, right, Steve? I mean, it's at best, it's a long shot.
Yeah, at best. And but it's scary. Like I tell a lot of my friends, I'm 62 and just retired now. And one of my big disappointments in life is people, because people. I mean, when you think about it, I don't mean to make it sound like I'm mean, but how can you vote for people that do not have your financial best interest at heart?
Yeah. Good call, Steve. I appreciate it, man. That's so great. One of my biggest disappointments in life is people. You're my kind of guy. 866-55-PRESS is our phone number. Let's take a break. We're right up against the clock. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We will take a quick break, and we will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies in Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Take a quick look at what the president is up to today. 10 o'clock this morning, the president and the vice president received their presidential daily briefing. At about 11 o'clock, the president views student science fair projects. Today's the day, that big day where they have science fair projects come to the White House. He's going to talk about the science fair at 11:45 today. At 2:10 p.m., the president delivers remarks at the Select USA Investment Summit over at National Harbor. And there's a press briefing by Josh Earnest at 12:30. By the way, thank you to everyone who has been tweeting me and talking in the chat room about hangover cures. I think I'm good. I think I'm fine. I got my Gatorade. I'm gonna go later on. I'm gonna go get a nice schwitz. I'm gonna sweat some of this out, get a massage. I'll be fine. But I do appreciate your solutions to get rid of a hangover. That's great. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. We're taking a very quick break, and we will be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan.
And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like it back?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. 6 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today on this Monday, March 23rd. So much news happening over the weekend. We're going to try and cover it all in this last hour of the show. Make sure you're following the show on Twitter at BP Show, and you can listen to the show on your favorite progressive talk radio station or on iHeartRadio app or on the TuneIn app if you use the Progressive Voices channel. Running the board this morning is Elisa Murphy. Elisa, good morning. Happy Monday.
Good morning.
If you call our number at 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377, you will talk to Alicia Cruz, who is standing by. And if you were watching the show on DirecTV or Dish Network on Free Speech TV or youtube.com/Talker TV, TAWKR TV. You were doing so because of the good work of Monty Kanzler, who is sitting in for Cyprian Bolding today. And, you know, I've been doing the show by myself today, but I need to bring in some people to help me through it because I can't do it by myself anymore. I just can't. So I have Politico's Lauren French, congressional reporter, in studio. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well.
You're well.
I've been better, frankly. But
I've heard.
I'm fine.
I'm fine, okay? It's fine.
What do you want from me? Jesus, it's Monday. I had a little bit of an evening. I had a little too much evening, is what I'm getting at.
You know what? You gotta live life.
Exactly. Some days when you have to get up stupid early, you stay up way too late eating pork and drinking whiskey. You know?
That doesn't sound like a bad night.
Oh, it was a fine night. But that night made for a rough morning.
All right.
Elisa and I were just talking. I don't remember the first hour of the show. How was it?
It was pretty good.
Was it good?
Yeah, lots of calls.
Great. That's just good to know. That makes me feel really good about myself. But there are a lot of things to talk about congressionally, even though they are on vacation. So that's why we have Lauren French in. So I'm glad you're here. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at Lauren in French and read her fine work at Politico.com. Did you do a bracket this year?
I did not do a bracket.
Neither did I.
So GW played horribly.
Yeah,
my alma mater.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart a little bit.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get into it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. I don't really have a college basketball team necessarily, but I've always done a bracket. And this is the first year that I'm completely have no bracket at all.
So Politico's doing a bracket. And I meant to do that. But then things happened, the budget or Loretta Lynch or Selma. And, all of a sudden it was Friday and it was supposed to be due on Tuesday.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I feel great that I don't have one because now I can enjoy the chaos. I love the chaos. There were all kinds of upsets over the weekend. Michigan State beat Virginia, so Virginia's out. Duke beat San Diego State. That's not an upset. The Wichita State-Kansas thing is fascinating to me because Wichita State said, we want Kansas. We want a shot at Kansas. And Kansas would never put them on the schedule throughout the regular season. They were just like, we can't even with you guys. We're not going to deal with you guys. And Wichita State had this chip on their shoulder all season long, so they were ecstatic that they got to play Kansas. Wichita State, a 7 seed. Kansas, a number 2 seed. Wichita State beat the tar out of Kansas. 78-65 was the final there, so Kansas is out. The big shocker from over the weekend, NC State knocking out number 1 Villanova. And then Maryland, of course, lost last night. 9 o'clock tip-off on a Sunday night, that game.
It's too late.
Way too late. Some of these games, they're ridiculous. Louisville, the Louisville game, I don't think started until like 10. It's crazy talk.
Well, it's because, March Madness should be a national holiday.
Listen, the Thursday and Friday that March Madness kicks off is like the greatest couple of days in all of sports.
Yeah, so we should all just take it off together.
A lot of people do.
A lot of
people do. If you go to a bar at lunchtime on Thursday, yeah.
Well, I'm a reporter. You don't need to talk about being at a bar at Thursday afternoon.
DC is the only place that I'll walk into a bar on the first day of March Madness, and it'll be Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC behind the bar, and no basketball. Because, of course, DC. I'm kidding. That actually did happen once.
Really?
Yeah, it really did. I swear I walked in, it was like...
We're a special kind of people.
Clearly. All right. So Congress isn't in session right now, but there's still a lot of stuff to talk about. Yeah. Bring us up to speed on the Loretta Lynch situation, because we kind of got the impression that this wouldn't be all that big of a deal to get her confirmed for Attorney General so long ago when we were talking about it, but now here we are and we still don't have a confirmation.
So the Senate House come back tonight, and you're really not going to see, there isn't really anything to bring you up to speed to. They're still fighting over this nomination, and it's still kind of the linchpin is that trafficking bill and the abortion provision in the trafficking bill. Senate Democrats won't accept it, won't do a vote on it. Republicans can't get past it with their own votes. And that's what's blocking Loretta Lynch, because Mitch McConnell has repeatedly said, we have to get this trafficking bill out of the way first before we deal with the Lynch nomination. So we're in this week. It's a short week, out Thursday, I believe, for the Senate as well as the House. And then there's the 2-week Easter recess. So we're already, for Loretta Lynch, pushing past, we're blowing past all deadlines for how long it's taken other attorney generals to get confirmed. Attorneys General. My English. I said it. I know. I was like, my English teacher in high school is going to kill me for that one. Attorneys General.
Right.
It's taken longer for her to get confirmed than any one of her predecessors, and there's really no end in sight because you're just at this logjam in the Senate over this Hyde provision in that anti-trafficking bill, and no side's really willing to give, and no side has to give because of the rules of the Senate. They could feasibly just continue to hold show votes on this anti-trafficking bill into eternity until either pressure mounts on either side or we all die. Let's
get always the optimists. We'll get into that trafficking bill a little bit more on the details, but I want to play this clip of President Obama because he talked about how long it's been for Loretta Lynch.
By Monday, Loretta will have been languishing on the Senate floor for longer than the 7 previous attorney generals combined.
Ooh, he said attorney generals too, by the way. Did you catch that? Your English teacher needs to talk to the President of the United States.
If you need some grammar help, I can get in there.
Holler at me. I thought that the White House and Eric Holder did a pretty smart thing when he announced that he was leaving. He said, I'm going to serve until my replacement is confirmed.
You never would have thought Republicans would have found someone they hated more than Eric Holder, but they did. And it's not even that Loretta Lynch did a number of things that really did get the ire of Republicans up. She stood so aggressively behind President Barack Obama's immigration executive actions, and she did it really, in a committee room that she had no shame and no bias about it. In a committee room that really dislikes and thinks that it's unconstitutional and think that the president really overstepped on those bounds. So that was a calculated risk. So there's obviously some politics playing into this. You had Ted Cruz, who, of course, announcing for president now, saying that she, is telling senators before she's going to confirm that, in their view, she's willing to break the law. So she didn't really win herself any friends or any favors. And you could have seen if she didn't go so hard on this immigration stuff and there wasn't such rancor and half the Senate wasn't announcing for president in 2016, this wouldn't have kind of gotten so frictious, because she has a resume that Republicans previously, lauded. She, has a good resume, a deep resume. But it really was that stick up over the executive actions and immigration that really, really burned her in the eyes of Senate Republicans.
It's interesting to me that Loretta Lynch, the story of the Navy mechanic who was trying to join ISIS, right? We talked about that story last week. He's going to face charges. And who's heading that up? Loretta Lynch. She's good enough for that, but not good enough for the Attorney General thing. I find it to be kind of nutso. But let's talk about this trafficking bill, because there's a lot of finger pointing over who's to blame and whose fault this is. What's the core fight here, and what's the core disagreement?
It's over the Hyde Amendment, which is that provision that stops federal money to going towards abortions. Mm-hmm. So this anti-trafficking bill would give victims of trafficking relief. They would help, and it also beefs up some regulations to help stop the trafficking before it starts. But it does...
Sounds like a good bill.
Yeah, everyone can get on board with this bill.
Okay.
There's no one who doesn't like this bill.
All right, yes.
But it appears that in the course of looking over the bill and reading over it, a staffer didn't flag for their Democratic boss that there was the Hyde provision in that, which does stop money from going towards federal money from going towards abortions. So Democrats voted out of committee. They get to the floor, and then suddenly someone somewhere realizes that this language is in the bill, and Democrats, of course, have to oppose it. The Hyde Amendment is something that Democrats oppose almost every time it comes up.
Right.
And this is the kerfuffle. So you had this fantastically interesting week where you had Senate Democrats accusing Republicans of slipping it in and not telling anyone and trying to hide it. And then all of a sudden a staffer last week had to do an about face and be like, actually, we knew. I just forgot to tell my boss.
Oh, Jesus.
So now some Senate Democrats say, we knew this provision was in there, but we're still not going to vote for it anyway. So the Senate has done a number of show votes on it, votes that they knew they wouldn't pass, it wouldn't go for it. And that's where we're stuck now, is the Senate is continuing during a budget week, during Loretta Lynch confirmations right before the Easter recess, is going to keep holding votes, or possibly keep holding votes on this anti-trafficking bill just to try to push it through. Senate Republicans, their staffers, their advisors are really hoping that eventually Senate Republicans are hoping that Senate Democrats feel so shamed for holding up an anti-trafficking bill that they'll swallow the Hyde Amendment. Senate Democrats think that kind of the reverse, that Republicans will look out of touch forcing this abortion provision on Americans when there's anti-trafficking stuff to do.
Right.
So it's like a game of chicken now in the Senate. That is where we've come to.
God, that is amazing to me. This is the Congressiest thing that Congress may have ever done. Right? Like, how... But,
House of Cards will do an episode about this next season.
Believe it.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea that they're just like, well, we didn't read it, or we didn't know about it, no one told us about it, is so goofy that... Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, and it just opens up Congress.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it plays into that idea of this do-nothing Congress, that they're not really paying attention, that they're just going through the motions. It's everything that everybody hates about Congress.
It's that, and it opens up to the sausage baking of Congress.
Yeah.
Is that, I live and work in D.C., and I understand how it works a little bit because I'm up there every single day,
Sure.
and people in D.C. too. But if you go out to the 3,000-foot view or the 30,000-foot view, Americans think that the members of Congress read all of their bills. They probably know about speechwriters, but they don't realize how scripted everything is, and they don't realize how integral staffers are to this process.
Sure.
So when that's...
You mean that my member of Congress isn't rifling through this 5,000-page document and... with a highlighter?
Yeah, no, he's not.
You shattered my...
Yeah, they're not sitting there in the rotunda. There's no group cram sessions over bills.
Right.
And they do read. Members do read these bills.
Sure.
But it falls a lot on staffers. But it's kind of one of those pass the buck excuses, like, my staffers didn't see it, that really just... doesn't ring true when voters and the people who matter when it comes to polling, come out and they hear those excuses. It's kind of a head scratcher.
What a mess. All right, let's take a quick break. We've got some more stuff to talk about on the other side. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. My guest is congressional reporter for Politico, Lauren French. Please go follow her on Twitter at LaurenInFrench and read her good work at Politico.com. Very quick break, and we'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You know, sometimes when I'm walking down the street, I'm not necessarily looking out and seeing all these water-wasting lawns and people that aren't as connected to their neighbors and their lives as they could be. I'm walking down the street looking, going, edible oases, rainwater, fed landscape, and just looking at the possibility of these sort of landscapes up and down the streets of neighborhoods and communities all across this world. Small actions do ripple and they add up and they have a cumulative impact. And so when you're building upon your small mindful actions, you know, you have the confidence and the ability to take on something a little bit greater. So that could be nice. This, in the context of where we're at as a planet with climate change and these really big issues and people that are more disconnected and less skilled than ever, it becomes even more amazing and powerful how much of a solution this is to design these ecological gardens and to come together with shared vision and shared voice. There's never been a time where your choices have mattered more. Doing something as simple as us transforming a landscape creates a model that anybody could look at far and wide, and you're sharing food and connecting and building skills together in your own neighborhood. It's a richer way to live in normal times, but in the new normal of climate change and erratic weather and economic upheaval, it becomes essential. Whether it's me, you, Gandhi, Che, MLK, Willy Wonka, whoever, past, present, or future, the power of our daily actions is all that we have. You know, and like our community said, give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I'll move the world. And that's what those simple actions do. They move the world every day.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies.
In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is the Bill Press Show, 24 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today on this Monday, March 23rd. Talking to Lauren French, congressional reporter for Politico, who's in studio with us. Lauren, thank you so much for coming in.
Anytime.
So let me ask you about this now infamous Iran letter that Tom Cotton, freshman from Arkansas, pulled up this letter basically saying, hey, don't worry about what the president says. We've got other plans. How has that played now that it's been a couple of weeks since he wrote that and the 47 senators signed it?
So it immediately created a firestorm because you have a freshman senator pretty much telling a foreign government, you know, it doesn't matter what our president does because he's going to be gone in about 2 years. So, you know, expiration date is pretty short. And it did create a firestorm. And there was a lot of questions because there are those ongoing conversations with Iran over their nuclear facilities with the P+5, the negotiating countries. And it really, a lot of people, both internally, foreign policy hawks, said that does damage the U.S.'s credibility in negotiating these agreements. The U.S. wants Iran to allow more inspectors to come in to dismantle some of its facilities. And that letter just was, such a gut punch toward Obama. And that was what it was supposed to do.
Sure, right.
It was supposed to be a reality check of you're on your way out, President Obama, and the Republican Senate plans on being the Republican Senate for a while. And you saw a little bit of a rollback. You said John McCain came out and was like, maybe we should have read it a little bit more.
Yeah. Another instance of where they're saying, like, maybe we should have read some stuff before we wrote off on it.
Well, apparently, so there was that big snowstorm a couple of weeks ago, and that's when Tom Cotton went around to all of his GOP senators, friends, and said, hey, can you sign this letter? And everyone's trying, it's like the running of the bulls in Congress on Thursdays. They are trying to get to their planes. They do not want to be here. And a snowstorm's coming, so if they really don't get out, they're stuck here in D.C. for the weekend with all of us, normal people. And so they all signed on to this letter. 47 of them signed on to this letter. And then you saw once they had a little bit more time to digest it and see John McCain being like, we should have read it a little bit more. But no one's really backing down from the actual meat of the letter, that Congress should have the argument from Republicans that Congress should have a big role in talking and agreeing to and codifying whatever comes out of these negotiations with Iran. You see Bob Corker, who's really going to be leading anything that comes forward with Iran, saying essentially the same thing publicly, that he wants the Senate, he wants Congress to have a role in approving this negotiation. So he has put forward a bill to put additional sanctions on Iran. Obama has been asking senators to hold off on doing so, to give him more flexibility with negotiating with Tehran. Now that bill is going to be put off until after the Easter recess. Obama gets about another 2 weeks or so. But John Kerry's coming out and saying that they're likely not going to make their deadline for these negotiations, which is supposed to be in April. And this is just a really fraught negotiations. There's always the old people walk out of the rooms because the size of the flags are too small or too big. And obviously it's over more complicated things.
Sure.
But these things, anything to really throw up the negotiation, Iran to walk out of the room, or any one of our the U.S.'s partners to walk out of their room. So having this letter really put into the mix and having sanctions, new sanctions on Tehran put into the mix, really can create calamity for these negotiations.
How did Iran take?
Well, it's actually funny. So their Ayatollah, very active on Twitter, pretty much said something, dismissed it. And who knows whether that's actually him or his staff. It's, very secretive country. Yeah. But they weren't very dismissive. And it wasn't actually sent, which is a key point that some Republicans are making to talk about it. The letter was not sent to Iran. It was just posted as an open letter to its leaders. So it was a little bit of it was more for Obama and gut checking Obama on the reality of his presidency with a Republican Senate that he does, that it was, hey, we want to work with you.
Right. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Well, that's a really good explanation of that whole situation. We'll continue to watch that. So thanks so much for coming in.
Anytime.
I appreciate it. Go follow her on Twitter at Lauren in French and read her work at Politico.com. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Two anti-government, self-described revolutionaries have shot up a pizza restaurant as well as a Walmart in Las Vegas.
The internationally syndicated political series, The David Pakman Show, provides progressive talk, analysis, and interviews with the nation's youngest radio and television host, David Pakman. Find out more and catch up on all the latest episodes by visiting our website at freespeech.org.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show, 33 minutes past the hour. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today. Bill's on vacation this week, so we've got a good lineup of guest hosts who are going to come in and help Bill out while he's away. But I need help, of course, so I brought in our good friend, campaign editor for The Hill, Jessica Taylor, who's in studio with us. She's on Twitter at Jessica Taylor. You can read her good work at thehill.com. Good morning, Jessica.
Good morning, Peter.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Yep, no problem.
Really appreciate it. First things first, how's your bracket?
It's not good.
No, nobody has a good bracket anymore.
I mean, I picked, I have Kentucky winning it all because I went safe, but in one of my brackets, I will say. And I have
This is my bracket, by the way. This is my bracket. That's about as much of a bracket as I did this year.
Yeah,
just Kentucky.
So, who knows? I don't know. My team didn't make it this year, so I don't have, my heart isn't in it.
Yeah, you don't care.
Yeah.
This is the first year that I have done no form of a bracket at all, and it's kind of great.
Yeah,
because you can kind of root for the chaos.
Yeah, we have an office pool, so, but it's not good.
Yeah. Now, I hear a couple of upsets from over the weekend, by the way, just to run through these. Michigan State beat Virginia. Virginia is out. Wichita State in Kansas is a great story.
Yeah, so are they the Cinderella team or something?
I think they're kind of the Cinderella team right now. I get, Dayton was for a little while, but Dayton lost to Oklahoma. The great thing about the Wichita State Kansas thing, I mentioned this earlier, is Wichita State wanted Kansas all season long. They said, we want Kansas, we want Kansas, and Kansas wouldn't put them on the schedule. They were just like, no, we're not going to play Wichita State.
Yeah.
So they get them in the tournament, as luck would have it. And then they routed them. It was 78-65.
Yeah, knock out the number one seed.
Yeah, which that I think messed up a lot of people's brackets because Kansas, you can always count on them.
Baylor messed up mine on day one. I thought Baylor was going to go further than they did. I had them actually going to the Final Four. So that kind of killed my bracket.
That's really bad. That's really bad. But Kentucky's still in it, so you can still take it all, right? salvage a little bit of dignity. All right, so we're into it. 2016, it's here. We are rolling towards it.
It began last night at 12:09 a.m., which I was up for. So, thank you, Ted Cruz.
Yeah, yep. It began with Ted Cruz. He sent out a tweet, as you said, at 12:09, and it had this video attached to it. We'll play the audio if you haven't heard it.
It's a time for truth, a time to rise to the challenge, just as Americans have always done. I believe in America and her people, and I believe we can stand up and restore our promise. It's going to take a new generation of courageous conservatives to help make America great again. And I'm ready to stand with you to lead the fight.
Yeah. Okay, so my take on this, I don't think it's a very interesting or exciting ad. It's filled with cliches and kind of clipped together pretty shoddily. But I wanted to get your professional take on this because this all seemed to come together really fast.
It did. I mean, so a little bit of the backstory of this is it sort of started on Friday. So we got a call from Ted Cruz's advisor saying, he's giving this speech down in Liberty. You really, really want to be there. And they were kind of coy about it beyond that. So, immediately, our minds and everyone else in D.C. went to his presidential announcement. And, Liberty, at first I was like, why is he doing it there? But it makes sense. I think I initially thought he'd do it back in Houston or something, or Texas, or tell his story. But, he has to make a play for Christian conservative voters. Like, this is, if he's going to win, it's going to be with these, with this block of voters and stuff too. So he's going there, he's doing this. This is going to be at their convocation, so he's going to have a crowd there. The New York Times noted this morning that they're required to attend, so he sort of has a pre-made crowd for him.
That's great.
And
thank you all so much for being here.
Yeah,
I know you didn't really have a choice, but I'm glad you're here anyway.
Yeah. So clearly, as the weekend went on, it was confirmed that this is what this is. And stuff too. And, and then he tweeted out about 8 p.m. last night that, watch this space for an exciting announcement at midnight, which is the point when I realized I was not going to get any sleep.
Yeah, that's bad.
So myself and every other political reporter and editor was up there, refreshing Ted Cruz's Twitter feed. So she was 9 minutes late. Thank you, Ted Cruz. I could have used those 9 minutes of sleep.
Every minute counts.
So, he puts this video up, and I think you're right. It wasn't groundbreaking or anything. He sort of says what he's been saying. These are sort of themes that he's been using and stuff too. The one takeaway I did take from where he talks about sort of a new generation of leadership, conservative leadership. I think that's clearly a dig at Jeb Bush as the name, and even maybe even people who have run before. Because if he's competing for evangelical voters, he's going to be competing against Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum. Yeah. So he's saying, hey, I'm new, I'm fresh, and things too. And also today is actually the 5th anniversary of the day that President Obama signed into law Obamacare. Yep. So obviously Ted Cruz has made his mark fighting that and things too. So I think that this day is sort of symbolic for him in that regard too. So I think it's sort of, that's one of the reasons why he picked this day, but also it is sort of a surprise that he's getting out in front of all these other candidates. I think we thought it wasn't going to start until April when the new fundraising quarter is. We know that Rand Paul is going to announce on April 7th. So, I think Ted Cruz was sort of able to sneak in there and say, surprise, like you're going to be talking about me all this week and stuff too. And so, he's going to have sort of the oxygen to himself, I think, for the next week or so.
It is pretty interesting, I think, and almost kind of refreshing, even though I think Ted Cruz isn't the greatest candidate in the world, but that there was no exploratory committee, there was no political action committee, there was none of that. It was just, boom, I'm going.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the guy Ted Cruz is. I think that's kind of staying true to himself. He's,
shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah. So, he's in, he's all in, he's, not going to, I'm exploring, or, what Jeb Bush always has to couch where I'm actively exploring and things too. With all of these guys, we know they're running.
Yeah. Exactly.
The biggest surprise would be if someone doesn't run.
Will Hillary run or won't she?
Oh, my goodness.
On, guys.
A lot of Democratic communications professionals, Friday was their last day at work at their old job. It was I was like, where are all of these people going?
Boy, we better hope Hillary's going to run or they're going to be in real trouble. Come on.
Yeah, so, I mean, we knew he was running and things too, but I mean, he did surprise a little bit this weekend with the timing, and I think, he's getting a lot of mileage out of this. I mean, obviously we're talking about it, all the cable shows are talking about it this morning and stuff too. So, where he picked to is of course within driving distance of DC here, so it's easy for all the political press to get to. I mean, he's definitely he's sort of got the news cycle to himself right now.
One interesting note, by the way, with all of this planning, TedCruz.com. If you go to TedCruz.com, do yourself a favor and go to TedCruz.com today. All it is just a text, and it just says, support President Obama, immigration reform now.
So there's a funny story behind that.
Good.
So there's a lawyer, I don't know if he's in Texas anyway, there's a lawyer somewhere whose name was Ted Cruz too, and he had this domain bought even before we knew of Ted Cruz the politician.
Right.
And so when Ted Cruz the politician got big, apparently now he's sort of like trolling him. Like he used to be like his website for his law office. Mother Jones did a story on this. So it used to be like his law firm, but now he's just sort of trolling Ted Cruz on this. So
that's kind of brilliant.
Yeah,
I kind of love that.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't that we've seen politicians fail to get their domain names and stuff happens to this. So this wasn't necessarily like in a case where he forgot to do this. It was this guy had it for a long time before
Right.
Ted Cruz the politician and Ted Cruz the senator came to light. So
that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the political appeal of Ted Cruz, because it's interesting to me. I think Republicans the last couple cycles, presidential cycles, they feel like they didn't have somebody running who was conservative enough. There are some people who make that argument. And you look at what Ted Cruz stands for, and it seems like he's going the opposite direction, right? He's against gay marriage. He's fighting against immigration reform. He's against Obamacare, which are all things that have slowly gained popularity over the past several years. So as those are becoming more and more acceptable, he's fighting harder and harder against them, which I can see how there's probably plenty of people who agree with him and like that. But on a national level, we're talking about running for president. How successful is that going to be?
I mean, I think he has a path in the Republican primary, but his biggest problem has always been electability in a national sense. I mean, clearly, Texas, once you win the Republican primary, you're going to win. So he didn't have as much of an issue there. But, if Ted Cruz is the Republican nominee, you're going to see, Hillary Clinton, I think, sort of breathing easily and stuff too. I mean, it's just hard to see how, since he's so far to the right, how he wins a national election.
He could win Iowa. he could win Iowa like in the primary, right?
In the primary,
and
but
then what?
Yeah, but I mean, typically Iowa, we haven't seen him being very successful at picking the eventual winner,
Exactly.
And I mean, but the important thing to point out too is I think because we are seeing such a crowded primary field in Iowa, he's at like 5%. I mean, he's at like 2% in New Hampshire. I mean, he's in like 6th or 7th place with just single digits. So I mean, he's got to have some momentum here. Like, I mean, I think this announcement is crucial. It's crucial what he does after this, where he goes and stuff too. He's got to, I think, sort of carve out his own niche and stuff too. I mean, he's a good speaker. He is. He sort of has. I mean, he's the son of a preacher. He sort of has this cadence when he talks. Walking. He's a very engaging speaker. But like, he's not as good from what I've seen him on the stump. So sort of that off the cuff, glad handling and stuff too. He doesn't sort of have that Bill Clinton gene or anything too.
Right.
He's a little awkward almost, but he can give a good prepared speech. You
talking about that reminded me of that clip last week of the little girl.
Yes, the on fire. Yeah.
Your world is on fire, and she says, "Oh, my world is on fire." Yes, your world is on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of
yeah. Don't
creepy.
scare the little children.
You're supposed to kiss the babies,
yeah.
right? Not scare the crap out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, 44 minutes past the hour. We do need to take a quick break. I see some calls are lining up. We'll take a call or two when we come back. 866-55-PRESS. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. I have campaign editor for The Hill, Jessica Taylor, in studio with me for the rest of the hour. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
What gets you into college? Good SAT scores? High GPA? Lots of extracurriculars?
Sure, but what you really need is money.
If you don't have the cash, you'll need a loan.
And we mean huge student loans because the cost of college has risen 1,000% in the last 30 years.
This means big money for the banks that collect fees and interest.
Now, millions of young people are starting their adult lives with an average of $29,000 of loans on their backs.
Altogether, we're talking $1.2 trillion in student debt.
And more people are finding it impossible to pay them back. Welcome to the student debt crisis.
The increasing demand for higher education and cuts to state funding gave colleges a huge incentive to keep inflating prices.
I graduated about a year ago, currently in $35,000 of debt.
I am in debt about like $25,000.
I owe $23,000.
I owe over $50,000 in student loans.
38.8 million Americans owe money on a student loan. And the biggest names in banking are making huge profits off the booming student loan industry. Sallie Mae, the largest provider of private student loans, made $949 million last year.
They only give you about 6 months to look for a job. You have to start paying back the loan. It's very pressuring, especially nowadays. It's very hard to find a job.
Over half of the students graduating in 2012 could not find a decent paying job.
They either had low-wage jobs or unpaid internships or were unemployed altogether.
So you can't make the payments. You start incurring late fees, which makes the loan even harder to pay off.
And it stays with you for years, even decades.
Right now, a third of the people who started repaying their loans are delinquent or in default.
That's 13.7 million people, more than the populations of Chicago, New York, and San Francisco combined.
Worse, it's not just the borrowers who are in trouble. Many loans require co-signers.
So if the student is unable to pay, that co-signer, a father, a mother, or a grandparent, is now on the hook.
Even a grandparent's Social Security benefits can be garnished to pay the loan.
We should have an answer to this. If you get really behind in your car payment or your credit cards, you can file for bankruptcy.
But Congress has made it nearly impossible to discharge student loans through bankruptcy.
Big institutions make big profits while students try to make ends meet under crushing debt.
Is this how we want our education system to work?
The whole point of going to college is to get the career you want, but lately that's been discouraged because no one can afford school. You get a job just to pay off your student loans.
We need higher education, not higher debt.
Sign up to end the student debt crisis at higherednotdebt.org.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is The Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press today on this Monday, March 23rd. Campaign editor for The Hill is in studio with me, Jessica Taylor, our good friend. Hey, Jessica.
Morning.
Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. She had a late night, folks. She was up waiting for the Ted Cruz announcement. So
I live an exciting life.
We are doubly pleased to have you here, madam, considering your late assignment last night. Our phone number is 866-55-PRESS, 866-557-7377. Why don't we say hello to Lee in Villa Park, Illinois. Hey, Lee.
Hey, and thank you all for this wonderful show, and thank your guest for her work.
Are you the best? Come on, that's so sweet. What's your take, Lee? What's happening?
Okay, I was a teacher, and we read Green Eggs and Ham, quite often, and Ted Cruz should have not used that book because at the beginning and all the way through the end, this character did not like green eggs and ham. I mean, he just didn't like it. But at the end, when he tried it, he liked it. So if you don't like Obamacare, you haven't tried it. So Ted Cruz should know that, right? Once you try it, you would like it. I don't understand why he would use that to try to, defeat Obamacare.
That's a good take. We have that clip, by the way. Remember when Ted Cruz had his big filibuster, and he talked about Obamacare, and he related this very, very familiar Dr. Seuss story in his kind of rant against Obamacare.
They did not like Obamacare in a box with a fox, in a house, or with a mouse. It is not working.
But, Lee is right.
Yeah.
The moral of Green Eggs and Ham is this guy hated it until he tried it, and then it it's not bad.
No, I remember when this was going on and all of us were sitting there, again, thinking back to, when we read Green Eggs and Ham when we were 5 and thinking, like, does he understand what this book is about? I mean, yeah, it was very ironic. And, he's standing up there talking about this and we're like, no, this is about, being opposed to something and then coming and accepting it. Like, maybe you should have picked another children's book,
maybe. But this is also kind of part of what Ted Cruz does is the shooting off without necessarily knowing what he's talking about. Recently he talked about Common Core, about repealing Common Core. It's not how it works, dude. It's not federal legislation.
Yeah, these were state things that each state decides. So
he said something about net neutrality right after the president talked about net neutrality, and it was clear he didn't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
He thought it meant government-run internet, and it's just not. It's not the case. He's got a real problem with speaking first and figuring out what he got wrong later.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we've given Ted Cruz plenty of attention.
Oh yeah.
Let's turn the page to. Let's just accept and understand that Hillary Clinton is going to be the nominee for the Democrats, right? Like, end of story. Close that chapter. Next. Jeb Bush, and I think when you look at Ted Cruz and you compare him with someone like Jeb Bush, who's clear that he's more of a top tier candidate, how does the Ted Cruz thing affect a guy like Jeb Bush?
Well, what it does is when you get so many of these more conservative people in, does he feel this pressure to move to the right? We saw this clearly with Mitt Romney. We saw it with John McCain. And, I mean, that's essentially what ended up sort of torpedoing their chances in the general election. So if Cruz is sort of needling him on things like Common Core, immigration, that are probably his two weakest parts with conservatives, does he, Jeb Bush came out early on and said sometimes you have to lose the primary in order to win the battle in the general election, but you've still got to win the primary first in order to even make it there and stuff too. And so I think that's sort of Jeb Bush's biggest problem right now and stuff too. So it's sort of how does he push the rest of the field, to the right. Most importantly, whoever is the eventual nominee, be it Bush or Walker or somebody. So
right. Well, so let's talk about Scott Walker as well, because he's kind of hanging around at the top of these polls. What's Scott Walker's path to victory here? I mean, what's his big winning platform?
Well, I mean, the thing with Walker is he appeals to sort of both sides of the Republican Party. He can speak the Tea Party language. They like him. Conservatives like him, but also the establishment likes him too. I think the thing that's crucial for him in these next coming months is he came out there and said he was interested and sort of started making a name for himself before he had a full staff in place and things. And so, I think that's why we saw him having so many missteps and stuff early on. It hasn't really hurt him in the early polls, but as you go on, you've got to have a sustainable campaign. You've got to be able to run a campaign and have answers to things and too. So we'll have to see if he can sort of sustain that. I think almost you don't want to start out at the top of this process because it is such a long and arduous process.
Yeah.
And he's sort of seen as the new face, the front runner right now. Well, it's probably better to be in that position in November, October of this year than it is January, February.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff. Jessica Taylor, our good friend, campaign editor from The Hill. Yep. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, of course.
Make sure you're following her on Twitter at Jessica Taylor. And, of course, go visit our friends at The Hill at thehill.com. You can read Jessica's great stuff there, along with all of our other good friends.
Yep.
So thank you so much for coming
all right,
in.
Thank you.
My name is Peter Ogburn, sitting in for Bill Press. We got one quick little segment when we come back, and then we'll call it a day. Stay tuned.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings.
This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment, and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on Talker TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yes, it is The Bill Press Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wow, is the show almost over?
Oh, we're almost there.
What a day it's been, ladies and gentlemen. Look, there's going to be so much talk today about Ted Cruz. Just brace yourselves. It's going to be obnoxious. If you're the type of person like me that I don't mean to be mean about it. I just don't like Ted Cruz. I don't like his demeanor. I don't like his speech, the way he talks. I don't like his rhetoric. Just the whole thing just kind of rubs me the wrong way. And it's not just because he's a Republican. I don't mind. Like, I think Rand Paul is perfectly interesting and tolerable, Jeb Bush, but all the other ones. But just the Ted Cruz, just the kind of the smarminess, just rubs me the wrong way. Anyway, you're going to see a lot of that crap for the next several days. Because believe he's going to be on TV a lot and all that stuff. But we will be talking about it here on the Bill Press Show, like it or not, because he is the first real contender to jump into the race for 2016. Bill's out the rest of the week, so we got a lot of great guests joining us. Don't worry, we've really filled the lineup with some phenomenal talent. So we've got good stuff coming up all week long. Stay tuned. Lots of good stuff coming up. It's the Bill Press Show. My name is Peter Ogburn. See you tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.